Omega Spawn Origin Explored. Todd McFarlane's Spawn is decisively one of the coolest anti-heroes to exist in the world of comic books, so it is only fair on the part of this character here to brag about numerous versions. Well, speaking of versions, we will be exploring Omega Spawn, who happens to be one of the oldest Hell Spawns in the Spawn universe, and thereby terrorizingly terrifying and arguably the most powerful one. It is true that this version of Spawn is not officially treated as part of the story, but that is simply because only 3 of the planned 6 issues of Image United were published. Also, there was corroboration later by Rob Liefeld, who stated that there would not be any further issues. But hey, that did not stop Omega Spawn from topping the list of the highest ranked versions of Spawn, and the character maintains the position till date. This video here will tell you why he continues to rank number 1. Let's dive in, shall we? Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Omega Spawn Backstory. Before we go into the backstory of Omega Spawn, it is important to have one's lingering doubts on Plague Spawn cleared right away. Plague Spawn, as we all know, was the very first version of Spawn, and honestly speaking, more like an archetype to the future Hell Spawns on display. This brings us to Omega Spawn, who, for obvious reasons, was born after the prototype Spawn, and it goes without saying that he was compelling, commanding, and cogent. He had declared a war against Hell from his very birth, and for centuries, may we add, and trust us when we tell you that he, in terms of his strength and power, was almost as equal to Malbolgia. So much so that he caused immense damage to Hell's army and then decided to take over Earth. Now, while there were other Omegas, and there is no denying that, but the fact that they were all replicas of the original Omega Spawn made them nothing in comparison to the original Omega, the Conqueror. Eventually, he made up his mind to desist from his pursuit of Earth's conquest. Instead, he chose to go into space and emerge himself as a cosmic conqueror. He effectively created an army and soon started invading planets. Post the events of Spawn 301, especially with Spawn indicating that his symbiotic suit was causing a time rift in space, Omega Spawn at that time was attempting to invade another planet, but the latter ended up getting drawn into the very portal and as a result got stranded on Earth. Of course, he was furious with Al Simmons and made up his mind to enact vengeance on him. Therefore, Omega Spawn was determined to take over Earth once again. Omega Spawn even had his followers, or in other words, his own cult, to construct him a ship in order to escape Earth post-vanquishing it. The plan was to continue with his adventures. He also enlisted the aid of a new Hell Spawn called Monolith in order to capture Al Simmons. It is reported that Omega Spawn also had Cogliostro captured, but with Monolith double-crossing Omega Spawn and setting free Al Simmons, he was seemingly killed by Omega Spawn. The arrival of Plague Spawn has him attacking Omega Spawn, destroying his arm and creating a massive explosion, which in turn injured Omega Spawn and coerced him into hiding. Next, we will be discussing the unfinished Image United comic book series in detail. The Prelude begins with Baxter Montgomery, more popularly known as Fortress, adjusting to his biomechanical suit and his new power. He has plenty of thoughts running wild in his mind, but eventually decides to make the most out of his new powers, with him testing his new abilities by attempting to lift a dumpster using his latent psychic powers. He encounters the superhero police officer Savage Dragon, who asks him to surrender. Nonetheless, with Fortress trying to make Dragon understand things, he inadvertently knocks the latter down. The duo, however, run into the villainous seismologist Doc Seismic, who, mind you, is on a complete rampage. Of course, this results in a fight. Dragon tries to stop him, but Seismic joins together his wrist gauntlets to create a strong wave of energy, which of course flings the former away. Seeing him take down Savage Dragon like that, Fortress decides to intervene. Seismic is seen joining his gauntlets yet again and creating another disruption wave, only to have Dragon charge towards him and land a mighty blow on him. That does not stop Seismic from launching another powerful energy wave directed towards Dragon, but Fortress, unwillingly may we add, ends up absorbing all of Seismic's powers. His actions managed to surprise even Dragon for that matter, who filled him regarding his last fight with Seismic and his army of subterranean monsters. With Seismic letting out a sudden roar and bursts of energy this time from his eyes, Fortress thinks he has killed him. Dragon, looking at Seismic, realizes that he is under some kind of a trance and lets Fortress know about it. While he does thank him for his help, Dragon informs Fortress that he has to bring him in. But when he tries to do that, Fortress, having absorbed way too much of Seismic's powers, starts feeling unwell, and then it actually begins to hurt him. So much so that post his inability to handle the exceeding levels of energy which he has absorbed, Fortress simply flies off. He crashes himself on the roof of a tall building and passes out after getting overwhelmed by some kind of a strange vision that has all the Image Comics superheroes, including him, together. Chapter 1 begins with Fortress's ongoing vision, one that has him along with Shaft, Shadowhawk, Spawn, Ripclaw, Badrock, Dragon, and Witchblade fighting against an enemy that they simply have no chance of winning against. Clearly, they are outmatched, but they continue to fight. Fortress is surprised at the fact that he knows the names of all of them, and while he is not sure if the vision he is seeing is either a dream or the future, he is able to come back to reality. He finds himself on top of a roof in Chicago, and while he is wondering how he got there in the first place, he sees the unstoppable cyborg Overkill causing complete chaos down the street. To Fortress's shock, and just like his vision, the superhero team of Youngblood are seen arriving there, and together with Dragon, they attempt to stop the walking tank. In the meantime, at the Cyberforce HQ, the Cyberforce is flooded with reports coming in from Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, and Baltimore, in short, all over the country. With the Cyberforce team trying to figure out if they should be intervening, they realize that the attacks all over cannot be a coincidence and that something larger is definitely at work there. When another member of the Cyberforce team, Velocity, informs the rest of them of the big mess downtown, they decide to check things out. Coming back to the fight taking place between Overkill and the combined forces of Youngblood and Dragon, Fortress decides to follow the path of his vision and joins the combined forces. After all, he did see a world in ruins, and it goes without saying that he cannot just let that happen. It is also around the same time when Die Hard, a member of Youngblood, gets hit with a blast by Overkill, which results in the destruction of his current body. While he is able to upload a secondary unit at the Youngblood headquarters and is on his way out to rejoin the fight, Troll, who happens to be another member of the Youngblood superhero team, tells him about a new recruit, but the former clearly does not have time for him and runs out, leaving Troll in charge of things. Coming back to the intense battle, the quartet of Dragon, Fortress, and the Youngblood duo Shaft and Badrock are seen trying their very best to keep Overkill contained. Meanwhile, the new recruit Eddie Collins, or should we say Shadowhawk, is seen waiting at the Youngblood headquarters when Troll comes in and tells him that since Shaft is out in the field, he will be handling the final evaluation instead. Eddie suits up and tells him that he is ready. As for the battle, Badrock is effectively able to incapacitate Overkill, and even with the latter launching his head off in an attempt to escape, Shaft prevents him from doing so. While the battle seems to be over, Fortress knows it very well that the worst is yet to come. He has seen it after all. As he figures out a way to let the rest know about his vision and that they should all be gathering forces, Die Hard comes back for an injured Youngblood member, or Vogue to be more precise, and takes her to a hospital to attend to her wounds. With Dragon attempting to leave, Fortress prevents him from doing so and slams him into a wall when in reality he just wanted to grab him. He starts blabbering about how he needs everyone by his side and that the whole world is in danger. Of course, Fortress screaming like that does not make sense and Dragon ends up knocking him down. Shaft decides to take him along with the other Youngblood members to their headquarters while stating to Dragon that they are far equipped for people like Fortress. Dragon leaves, hoping to not meet them again anytime soon. As for Shadowhawk, he is seen putting up a great performance at the Youngblood headquarters. Troll, impressed by him, tells him that he is in. However, with another Youngblood member, Cougar, informing Troll that the superhero team is splitting into 3 teams to assist Girth, Quantum, and Crypt, each of them active in different regions, Troll tells Shadowhawk that the team could use him in the field, given that he has to stay behind to coordinate things. Shadowhawk happily agrees to help them out. The readers are next taken somewhere in New York City, where Jim Downing is seen sitting in a room. There is a certain voice that first tells him to rise, and then tells him that he happens to be a piece of a plan that's already been set in motion. Jim tells the voice that he is not in the habit of taking orders from people who hide in the shadows, whilst himself transforming into Spawn. With him demanding the voice to show itself and what it wants, Al Simmons reveals himself as the Omega Spawn and tells Downing to bow down before him. As for Dragon, he has just gotten back home when he gets an alert from the Chicago Police Department asking him to report back as soon as possible. The first chapter ends with Shaft visiting Fortress in his cell, and the latter telling him that if they don't gather everyone and gear themselves up for the coming battle, they are all going to die. Chapter 2 begins with the newest Hellspawn, Jim Downing, coming face to face with Al Simmons. Judging by the duo's conversation, the readers can easily make out that Al Simmons, having grown tired of this perpetual tug of war between heaven and hell over the people of the world, has his own plans for ending the world. With him making his plans evident to Jim, the latter refuses to help him out, and this inevitably results in a battle between the duo. Al Simmons as Omega Spawn is furious at Jim because he did consider the latter to be a powerful ally and had hoped that he would have stood by his side, but clearly that is not what is happening now. Omega Spawn makes it visibly clear that he is way more powerful than Jim and tells him that he will neither know what he was a part of nor will he have the answers that he sought. As he shoots a necroplasmic blast towards Jim, the latter manages to teleport himself to the Hillman Hospital in Chicago. Jim tries to warn the people of the impending threat, but he is already too weak. Nurse Ann Stevens is seen attending to him. Call it a coincidence, but Hillman Hospital happens to be the same place where Die Hard got Vogue admitted posed their fight with Overt Kill. With Die Hard trying to tell an unconscious Vogue about his feelings towards her, the hospital gets attacked. Anne asks Die Hard to help her evacuate the patients, and she is seen transforming into Mighty Man to fight against the enemies. As for Die Hard, he is seen carrying Vogue to someplace safe. The readers are again taken to the Youngblood headquarters. Shaft is seen continuing his conversation with Fortress, and even with the latter going into details regarding his vision, Shaft finds it difficult in trusting him. He tells Fortress to figure things out first and leaves the headquarters to help his team members fight. Fortress is seen screaming, telling him not to leave him behind. The next scene shows Detective Sarah Pezzini in New York witnessing Shadowhawk along with the Youngblood team in the midst of an intense fight. By the looks of it, the whole city seems to have gone crazy. It is almost like every bad guy out there with superpowers is suddenly on some kind of a rampage. Sarah calls in for backup and switches on to her Witchblade mode to help the combined forces of Youngblood and Shadowhawk take down the villains. Things don't look that great in Chicago too. John Quincy Armstrong, more popularly known as the superhero Super Patriot, is seen engaged in a fierce battle against a villain that has the ability to melt literally anything that it is touching. He is joined by Savage Dragon, and together they are able to defeat the enemy. Mighty Man makes an appearance there and asks the duo for their aid at the hospital. They reach the hospital only to find Jim Downing as Spawn, having taken care of the villains. With the hospital destroyed, the rest of the heroes start evacuating the patients from there. Meanwhile, the whole city of Hartford is under siege, and while Cyberforce is at it, they are able to regain control after a new guy called Barricade helps them in taking care of the enemy. Impressed by his strength and fighting skills, Cyberforce realizes that someone as strong as Barricade could be of great help to the team and makes him a part of their squad. They are even seen checking in with Youngblood to gauge the situation. The next few descriptive panel gives us glimpses of the uncontrollable situation in Seattle, Huntington, St. Louis, Orlando, Detroit, and Los Angeles, and it is fair to say that things are getting out of hand. On the other hand, Jim Downing as Spawn is seen revealing about Omega Spawn to Dragon and Die-Hard, post which Die-Hard asks Dragon and Spawn to accompany him back to the Youngblood headquarters. As for Fortress, he keeps repeating to himself that it is too late now. Chapter 2 ends with a colossal group of villains who have gathered together. They have big plans of crushing New York, and as per the orders of Omega Spawn, the entire army of villains is seen heading towards the Statue of Liberty to attack. Chapter 3 begins with Shaft literally losing his cool on Fortress. They are at the Youngblood headquarters, and there is a whole army of criminals and psychos assembling themselves outside the base. Shaft wants straight-cut answers from Fortress, but the latter does not have all the answers. Fortress tells him that he can feel something or someone sending him these visions, and while he does not know what is happening currently, he does know what is going to happen later. He is certain that they will not be able to win this fight, and while there was a time when all of this could have been avoided, it is a tad too late now. Omega Spawn's takeover is inevitable. He will be initially worshipped by the masses as a god. He will bring order to the world of chaos. He will protect and provide for them, and his rule will be welcomed. But eventually, his reign over them will be seen for what it is, and even with the people revolting and the nations rising up, the world will be destroyed. Nothing will be left, and everything will be taken away. The world will be reduced to ashes. It will be hell on earth. Fortress states that it will be their fault because they allowed things to happen in the first place. All of a sudden, an explosion takes place and Shaft realizes that the enemy outside is about to breach their outer defenses. He releases Fortress from his cell and tells him that while there is time, they should be working together. Shaft refuses to believe that the outcome of the current battle is already decided. The Youngblood, along with Witchblade, is seen running headlong into another fight. The enemies that they are up against are determined to destroy them and all in the name of Omega Spawn. Dragon, Die-Hard, Spawn, and Super Patriot are seen to arrive. By now, Spawn has already updated the group on how everything is a part of Omega Spawn's plan and that he is solely responsible for the chaos. While the quartet is seen to fight, Spawn realizes that it is possible that this is just another diversion, one that is meant to keep them occupied and weaken them. With Dragon going down and Super Patriot surrounded by the bunch of enemies from all sides, they are joined by Badrock, Shaft, and Fortress. They are soon followed by the other members of the Youngblood, Witchblade, as well as Cyberforce. The battle starts getting intense by the minute, and all Fortress can think of is preventing one of them from dying in order to maintain the very ranks of the battle that is yet to come. But all hope seems to be lost when the Statue of Liberty comes crashing down, seeing the great defenders of the planet literally struggle and unable to defend themselves. Fortress willingly decides to give what is left of his strength till the very end. The heroes are literally on the verge of exhausting themselves when a loud green explosion takes place, hurling each of them here and there. It should not come as a surprise to you that this is how Omega Spawn chooses to make his grand entry. He appears in front of everyone looking even more terrifying than before and commands everyone to bow down to him. He informs them that he is their new lord and master and that their world belongs to him now. What makes Omega Spawn so deadly? Well, to begin with, he is a Hellspawn, which points out towards his necroplasmically enhanced body that is now blended with the K7 Letha, naturally giving him superhuman strength, exceeding levels of speed, and incredible durability. He is capable of regeneration. We are talking about healing even the most lethal of wounds, as well as his ability to heal others' injuries. Then there is his energy manipulation, which makes him skilled at shooting green blasts that are made out of necroplasm. He is also capable of manipulating, creating, and breathing hellfire. Having said all of that, there's hallucikinesis, via which he can trick his enemy into hallucinating things. This includes showing them a demonic vision of his very own hell. Then there's teleportation, intangibility, time manipulation, telepathy, telekinesis, empathy, spiritual force manipulation, stress scrying, shape-shifting, materialization, transmutation, ecokinesis, life force absorption, precognition, and his ability to warp reality as well as dimension manipulation. The robotic Omega Spawn, another version? Forces of light versus forces of darkness. The universe happens to be in the midst of an endless struggle between the forces of light and forces of darkness, between right and wrong, between hope and despair, and between good and evil. And like it or not, this eternal struggle happens to be most prevalent on Earth. The readers are taken to the Citadel of Doom, a fortress that not only serves as a reminder of the true power of evil, but also as the base of operations for the self-proclaimed destroyer of the light, Lord Mammon, and his secret order of villains, consisting of long-term legendary warrior Tiffany, who has now shifted her allegiance towards Mammon, part human, part robot, overt kill, and the cybernetically enhanced Cygor. Mammon informs them that the relic has been located and that the plan has been set in motion. With him asking his villainous forces if everyone is ready, Tiffany tells him about her plan, how she has called an emergency meeting of the Council of Light, and when they gather, she will let her sword do the talking for her, revealing her ultimate betrayal to them. Mammon asks her about the Redeemer, to which Tiffany tells him that he will be attending the meeting as well, and that nobody suspects anything. When asked about Spawn X, Cygor informs Mammon how he, along with his wife and child, are currently at the local zoo as planned. With Cygor further spying on the trio using his cybernetic eye, the readers get to see Al Simmons, Wanda, and Cyan enjoying themselves at a zoo in San Diego. We learn from Cygor that the trio are about to reach the primate paddock within the next 12 minutes, post which things will go as per Cygor's plans. Speaking of overt kill, he is the one in charge of the stone. The villainous forces are ready to strike the first blow in what may well be the final battle for the ultimate fate of not just this, but every other reality. Meanwhile, in New York, a local news reporter, Matt Novak, is seen going live in front of the New York Museum of History, Science and Art. He is talking about an upcoming all-new art exhibit titled Artifacts from Forgotten Realms, one that will have on display rare and never-seen-before relics from throughout history, when a mysterious-looking bright object falling from the sky comes into view and is seen causing a massive explosion. The blast is strong enough to hurl the reporter backwards, with Matt gaining back his consciousness and trying to communicate back with the broadcasting channel. He is beyond shocked to see a huge human-like thing appear in front of him. No points for guessing, it is Overt Kill, who is here for the stone. Speaking of Al Simmons, we finally get to see him enjoying himself with his family at the zoo, unaware of the attack in New York City. It is a rare sight if you ask us, because to witness Al Simmons enjoying a peaceful day without getting attacked by his rogues gallery is not something that you get to see every day. With the family eventually heading towards the part where the monkeys are exhibited, Al is taken back a little to see the mammals looking at his family in an aggressive manner. The readers are next taken someplace high above the planet Earth on the orbital space station Satellite X. We find Omega Spawn working on his new collection of robots, one that he addresses as the Omega Squadron. We also get to see the Redeemer, who is seen to leave for an emergency meeting called by the Council of Light. With Omega asking the Redeemer if he should relay the information to Al, Redeemer tells him that it is a good idea before teleporting away. However, as Omega Spawn tries to send across the message, an alert goes off at the station. While he does get to know about the situation in New York, an electric hum buzzes through the air that signals the activation of the jump engine, and he gets ambushed by a horde of plague demons. As for the Redeemer, he is seen arriving at the hallowed hall only to find his former lover Tiffany around, who has butchered everybody there. The Redeemer is way too shocked and even beyond when he finds Mammon there. The Dark Lord tells the Redeemer that he simply wanted the latter to see him standing in the very place that is considered the most sacred. Mammon, before leaving, tells Tiffany to take care of the Redeemer, and the duo engage themselves in an intense battle. It is also around the same time that Overkill is able to lay his hands on the Awakening Stone in New York. For those of you who are unaware of the magical properties of this artifact, it is capable of healing people as well as raising the dead. We find the NYPD arriving on the scene and telling Overkill to freeze, only for the latter to activate the buzzsaw on his arm and tell the officers to run. Speaking of the San Diego Zoo, things don't look that great there either. The vicious monkeys are seen simply breaking out of their cages and targeting Al and his family. Al tells Wanda and Cyan to get to the safe house post where he is attacked by the monkeys. Of course, he is left with no other option but to transform into Spawn X and incapacitate the monkeys one after the other. But that is until he gets ambushed by Cygor from behind. As far as things are concerned on Satellite X, Omega Spawn is bound to activate his Omega Squadron in order to help him fight the Plague Demons. Next, he initiates Vacuum Protocol and commands his squadron to power up their zero-gravity plates. The plan is to bust out the window and suck out everyone into the space. As he heads towards Earth, he asks his squadron to clean up the mess for him, make use of their targeting system to locate the remaining Plague Demons, and at the same time, send his location to Al and the Redeemer right after the jump engine is back up running. Putting stress on the next set of descriptive panels, a fierce battle between Redeemer and Tiffany is seen taking place. With Tiffany asking him to join her, the Redeemer refuses her offer, and that leads to the former lover stabbing the Redeemer in the side with a knife. In the meantime, back at the zoo, Spawn X and Cygor are fiercely at each other's throats. The former is furious at the latter, telling him how it is the same old process every single time. So far, every single battle between the duo has led Cygor to end up in a state of coma. Yet, we see the two titans clashing, one charged by magic and the other by science and metal. The aim remains the same. Both are willing to go to every extent to bring the other down to his knees. As for Omega Spawn, he is seen arriving in New York, precisely where Overkill is, and it goes without saying that the former manages to knock the latter down. It is around the same time that the jump engine system starts functioning, as a result of which has Spawn X and the Redeemer teleported all of a sudden from their respective battles and drawn to Omega Spawn's location. With the duo reaching New York, Omega Spawn fills them in about another relic being located and how Mammon has sent his forces to retrieve it. With Redeemer and Spawn X revealing about their respective battles against Cygor and Tiffany to Omega Spawn, the trio starts smelling a thick stench of brimstone in the air, post which Mammon and his henchmen appear in front of them. No points for guessing, the two sides gear themselves up for the ultimate battle of good versus evil. Spawn X is sure of one thing: there is no way that he will allow Mammon to leave with that stone. As for Mammon, he has a basic task for Overkill, Tiffany and Cygor. The nefarious trio is supposed to keep the do-gooders busy long enough for one of Mammon's minions to secure the stone for him. The Dark Lord is ready to reward his trio with powers they cannot even imagine in the first place. Coming to the demons, the one who will be placing the stone in his hand, to him he will be granting an instant promotion, the rank of Terror Demon. Sensing trouble, Omega Spawn is seen firing his servo proton blaster cannon that he fondly addresses as the Omega Cannon. Tiffany promises to return the pain that the Redeemer had caused her, only tenfold this time. Spawn X is seen asking Omega Spawn to activate his Omega Squadron, and we learn that the robots are expected to arrive at their location in less than 2 minutes. The battle between the two teams reaches an all-new high, and there comes a moment when the Plague Demons are almost in possession of the stone. While Spawn X is able to fire a necroplasmic blast at the demons, Cygor grabs one of his legs and violently brings him down while smashing him with his gigantic fists. Cygor has big plans for Spawn X. He yearns to peel the symbiotic suit from the latter's rotting corpse and take it as his own. It dawns upon Spawn X that things are indeed getting out of his hands. However, with the arrival of the Omega Squadron, Spawn X comes up with an idea. He tells Omega Spawn to uplink with the satellite, initiate R-Factor Protocol 7 and aim at Mammon and the Plague Demons. Omega Spawn gathers his squadron and tells them to form a perimeter around the relic and to keep Mammon's demons away from that stone. The Redeemer is seen launching an attack on Cygor, and Omega Spawn is seen charging at Tiffany. As for Spawn X, he fires a necroplasmic blast at Overkill with full force and manages to sever Overkill's head from his body. But by then, Mammon is already seen to have the sacred stone in his possession. He tells his minions to keep the heroes busy while he attends to his business. As the vicious demons are seen sinking their razor-sharp teeth and claws into the flesh of Spawn X, Mammon mocks at him, stating that he is too late to do anything now. As he begins to use the stone to unleash the hordes of Limbo upon all reality, Spawn X, using every bit of his remaining strength, fires another powerful blast at the Dark Lord and manages to take away the stone from him. With him attempting to move away as far as he can from Mammon with the stone, the latter catches up with him and takes away the stone from him again. Mammon calls him a disgrace to the mantle of the Spawn, and because the latter had refused to accept the full power of the Necrostone so far, he decides to relieve him of his burden. With the Dark Lord reaching into Spawn X's chest to pull out his Necrostone, the latter starts feeling an excruciating level of pain. For Mammon, it's 2 relics for the price of 1, and he decides to use both the stones in order to release unholy destruction on a scale that one can't even imagine. He states how Malbolgia will be free and that the world of light will finally end up crumbling and fading to memory. Spawn X, along with the readers, can make out that the K7 Letha is giving away, but our hero is still not ready to let darkness achieve victory. With great difficulty and concentration, he is able to draw the full power of the super suit to his left fist and delivers a punch of a lifetime to Mammon. Next, he is seen asking Omega Spawn about the status of the R-Factor. We learn that the calibration will be complete in about 4 seconds, and Spawn X asks him to hit on his mark. With Mammon seen to escape, Spawn X hits another blast at him and asks Omega Spawn to hit the target. A loud explosion occurs. We learn from the trio of Spawn X, Redeemer and Omega Spawn that the R-Factor protocol was successful in managing to delay the inevitable and that Mammon is still out there. As a result of the R-Factor, a rapid sequence of teleportation jumps was ambiguously lined up by calculating courses through randomly chosen dimensions and galaxies. This led to the target, and in this case, Mammon, bouncing in and out of space as well as time at a speed which is faster than light. So technically speaking, the Dark Lord is far away from Earth. Tiffany and Cygor are taken into custody, and as far as the 13 relics of ruin are concerned, they are placed under the special care of our superheroes. Theoretically speaking, it is a win no matter how one chooses to look at it, but having said that, there is a high probability that this attempt at multi-dimensional domination is only the beginning of something way bigger and worse. Sincerely hoping that Spawn X is wrong here. With this, we have come to the very end of our video here. Do hit us with your thoughts in the comment section. Also, stay tuned with us for more interesting content on Spawn. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.